I get to interview a true fan favorite who's been lighting up the lightweight division for well over a decade with his fan-friendly brawling style and a record of 11 UFC lightweight knockouts, the lightweight knockout king himself, Drew Dober. Drew embodies everything the UFC looks for in a fighter. Every one of his fights are entertaining wars. But outside of the ring, Drew is a dedicated dad, husband, and son with a story that provides inspiration for all of us. In today's interview, we discuss Drew's perspective through his ups and downs in 2025, including the loss of his unborn child. We talk about his recent ascent following 2 straight knockouts and his brand new 6-fight UFC contract. We also discuss some dream matchups that he has and fighters that he loves to watch in the Octagon. It was my pleasure to talk with Drew Dober, and I hope you enjoy this interview. Welcome, Drew Dober. It's so good to have you with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
First, I want to start out by saying congratulations on your new contract. You just signed a 6-fight contract with the UFC. Wow, at 37, that's a huge statement because 6 fights, depending on how often you're going to fight, is a vote of confidence coming from the UFC. Tell us about that.
I mean, we're like 1 fight left from the contract, and so it's kind of up to the UFC how long they want to keep me. I think the UFC is learning that fighters are so much better in their late 30s than they are in their late 20s. I think they made an intelligent investment considering after, my last fight, 2 fights. So the UFC stuck with me for 6 more fights, and I'm going to make them so entertaining.
Were you surprised with 6, or were you kind of hoping for another 6?
I mean, 6 is, I was looking at possibly 4, like you never know what the UFC wants to offer, but, we definitely got a pay raise and we got 6 more fights. But honestly, I was focused on like the fight at hand. I honestly wasn't even thinking about the contract. And so it was just a pleasant surprise fight week.
Oh, so that came during the week of the Michael Johnson fight.
Yeah, I was like 3 days before the fight.
That's incredible. How exciting to go into that fight and then to end it in a knockout.
I mean, everything happened so beautifully. I'm just still living on cloud 9 from it.
That's a great way to enter into 2026. You started the year with a bang, a knockout, a new contract. I'd like to rewind back to 2025. It was a big shift for you in perspective. So at the beginning of 2025, you're coming off 3 losses. And probably at that point, let's say you have 2 fights left in your contract at that point. You're asking yourself some big questions. I know your wife played a crucial role in those conversations.
Yeah, so with the 3 losses, well, my first loss with Moyacano, I just saw like 1 takedown kind of changed the outcome of the fight. I could have beat Moyacano, so it was easy for me to digest. And then I fought John Silva, fantastic opponent in front of Denver, Colorado. Such an amazing fight. Lost, spinning elbow, doctor stopped it because of the cut on my eyebrows. It was definitely easier to digest. Now, Mexico City, Manuel Torres, killer. And he was able to put me away in the first round, do the thing that he does best. And I think that fight was a lot harder for me to digest because it kind of like showed not just my age, but the idea of retirement and like, is this kind of like the direction of my career? And I had like asked myself, is this it or are we going to still keep going? And if we're going to keep going, the quote of do the same thing over and over, but expecting a different result is a definition of insanity. And I wasn't going to try to do that. So we're going to change the direction. Like I need to change something so that way we're not going to continue losing fights. And what change was that going to be? And I had to go back and think about where I started, what motivated me, what got me to this point, and what do I think changed? And I think what changed was negatively motivated by providing for my family. And I'm a husband now, I'm a father, I can provide for my family, and this is my career. And it was very a job feeling. And so it turned into this soldier mindset of like, you got to get it done. You have to do this. This is the things you have to do. And I remember walking out in Mexico City was the most nervous I'd ever felt. And I never get nervous during walkouts. I'd never get nervous in fighting, but this one I was. And it was just confusing to me. And in the fight, my mind was so cluttered that I couldn't even see his 1-2 that he threw at me. And so all of this was unusual. And I was like, what happened? And I just came up with the idea that me trying to be a man for my wife, my daughter, and for my friends and family and making it a career pulled me away from what truly made me great, which is just being a child in the octagon. And when I first started, I was living in my car. I was doing whatever I can to make ends meet. I was doing out of the entertainment. I loved this. And at some point in my UFC career, it became a job. And then in Europe with my wife, talking about fighting, and I said, we're not going to retire yet. I have at least one more. And then, can I have one more? And my wife's like, oh, absolutely, you can do it. So I was like, no, but I'm going to do it a little differently this time. I'm going to enjoy every moment. I'm going to enjoy the training, the weight cuts, walk out, the octagon. I'm going to make an attempt to enjoy it and not actually work at all. Now, it may work, it may not work, but I just need permission to do this. And so my wife, being the person I'm trying to provide for, need permission to let that go and pursue fighting careerless. Like, this is not your job. This is what you do for fun. And I was like, all right, this is what we're going to do. So then we got to fight with Prepolec, and we started training it. So I called all my coaches up. This is what we're going to do. And then they asked us, so you let us know how we can complement that. So I wrote out a script, handed it to them. And I was like, you guys are going to be my friends. And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to dance in the octagon and we're going to have fun. I don't need a coach. I don't need telling me how to do things. I don't want that soldier mindset. I'm going to enjoy this and I'm going to mess around and we're going to have fun and we're going to see how it goes. And it worked out extremely well.
Yeah, I'll say it worked out very, very well. And when did you find out that you were going to fight Kyle Prepolec?
Probably in August.
You go into training camp with this freedom, and all credit to your wife for taking that role and understanding that liberty that you have is everything while you go off and refresh that killer instinct. You go into training camp for Kyle Prepolec, and then you have a devastating loss. And that had to have an impact on your day-to-day training and how you wanted to be present for your wife. Can you give us some insight?
Yeah. I mean, it was devastating. Like, piece it together exactly. This is like the first I've talked about it. But so I'm entering this gym, following the script of trying to have fun and what it takes to have fun. The gym, honestly, mindfulness before the fun starts. So I wasn't trying to tell myself to have fun, just being in the present moment. And then, of course, then I run into the issue. It was a slow burn. It wasn't in an instant. We ran into complications. We had to figure out what the complications were. We did more tests. The test came back with even worse news. It was just a slow burn and we had to deal with it. But the way we were able to deal with it, we had to separate what we want and the jobs that we had to do. And it was just this understanding of she had to go to work, I had to go to work. And then home is where we left the sadness. And then we go to work to have fun. We come back home and then we deal with it, but then we leave for work and then we just focus on the work. So it really made both my wife and I focus on just where are you at in this present moment? What can you do in this present moment? And then you just kind of save the next problems for when that turn comes. And I think it really, what I was trying to do was have fun in the gym. And then now the problem forced me to then focus on it. Put both hands on to find the fun no matter what it takes.
What an incredible partnership that both of you were able to do that together and find yourselves faced with a very difficult situation and be able to pivot and continue to move forward. And my hat's off to you. Thank you for sharing that as well. Then you go into the Prepolec fight, you predicted a knockout, and then you have the weird refereeing in that fight. And you know that you're down, not down, but it's possibly 1-1, right? You get the first round, possibly Kyle got the second, but you know, I can't leave anything to chances. I have to come in and finish this. Take us through that third round, especially with the ref's weird call. After 2.5 minutes, he arbitrarily decides to take a point off. Take me through that moment.
I mean, all the steps leading up to just being in the octagon was just being mindful and just having fun with everything. I was remembering just what it was like to, have your first fight in the UFC. And honestly, the way it felt was in my first fight in the UFC. Like, I get to do this. And I was so excited. And then the fight, Kyle was super tough. But I had it in the back of my mind, the result of Mexico City. You got knocked out. And so, it was on in my mind, you got to be smart, have fun, but not too much fun, be intelligent and all that stuff. And kind of, stuff. But it created that hesitation. I just remember just constantly after the fight, just saying that I felt hesitation. I unfortunately kicked him in the groin. He had the point taken away. Like, I was aware that we're 1-1 with the point taken away. That means if it goes to the judges, it's a draw. And I don't fight to a draw. Like, I fight to win. And so I looked over at my coach, and my coach gave me the, like, you have to go. And I was like, okay. Pretty much he gave me permission to step on the gas. And then I just went after Kyle like it could be my last fight ever. And that's how it ended.
It was tremendous style. It was tremendous. Typical Drew Dober finish. Typical. But this one seemed even sweeter. Like, I'm back.
Yeah, it's just the extreme feeling of appreciation. I get one more fight. This wasn't my last fight. I get one more, and I get to talk to the media one more time. I get to make another walk. So it's just like I earned the ability to do it again. And it was just this extreme feeling of appreciation that, like, I get to do this.
Yeah, this is common throughout your interviews, that you talk about how fighting is always an invitation to continually better yourself. And I hear you say this quote, I get to do what I love to do on the biggest stage in the world. And that is such an important nugget for people to take to heart. Like, we all have our own octagon in our lives. We all have our own opponent that we're facing, whether the opponent is struggles with work or a relationship or whatever it is. I think that we can shift the struggle, the daily grind, if we look at it much like you were saying. We get to do this. Because what other choice do we have, really? So if you look at it as an opportunity, and how can I fall in love with this again? Because there's going to be highs and there's certainly going to be lows. How do I embrace the lows to make myself better and make myself more formidable in the octagon? MMA fans are typically 20 to 30s. What advice would you have for males out there and women in using this little nugget of you get to, and how you come back to the well and grow from them?
The best way I can translate it currently is, to simplify it, I was actually just sick like 48 hours ago. Just my daughter got me sick, and it was a painful 12 hours, right? So, because now this morning, I was able to appreciate how healthy and energetic I felt today, right? Just because I remembered that 48 hours ago, like, I could barely move and I could get out of bed. But today I feel motivated and energetic. And I think this is the standard, right? People forget what it's like to not being able to walk, not being able to get out of the house, not being able to do this, not being able to do that. So accepting the bad and using that to make you feel appreciative to what you have today, like your health, your energy, your youth, and just being appreciative in what you have today and being grateful what you have, it motivates you what you can get next. And it motivates you in your day. Now I can achieve my goals because I'm grateful what I have now. So everything else is just extra. A lot of people chase the extra and then they get disappointed because, well, here I am just feeling like this. No, feeling like this is the best part. And now you can go chase greatness.
Excellent. Let's talk a little more about fighting and what is going on right now. You have 6 laid out in front of you. If you could draw your dream map, what would that look like?
It's the difference between my motivation and then what actually makes sense. But as of now, I mean, we're looking at as high as, like, I would love to fight like a Conor McGregor, for him to come back. But, it's unlikely, but how high could it reach? I think a Dan Hooker fight would be incredible. So what we're looking at is just fights, just people that I can dance with, and people are going to be very entertained by it. And I want to reach as high as Dan Hooker and then anyone else in the mix. I know there's Estevan Ripovic who's fighting Gamera. Both those guys would be very interesting, and then there's also guys below the rankings that I think would be also very interesting. So for me, I'm not picky. I think just having another person that is just ready to exchange. Mason Jones just recently won in London, had fight of the night. That would be an incredible fight. And I don't shy away from any sort of opportunity to have, fireworks at experience. So now it's just a matter of when and where. When am I going to fight? Where is it going to be? Because the who doesn't matter.
Does the UFC allow you, how much influence do you get Do you contact Hunter and say, hey, this is who I like, or will you poke that person for me? Or do they come to you and say, this is what it is?
Yeah, man, they like when I give them ideas. And so like I'll send them a list of opponents that I think would be fantastic. And then they'll offer me a opponent that's not on that list. So they like listening to like the ideas that I have, but most of the time they offer who's available and who they think would be fun. I think the only time that they actually paid attention to what I said was Bobby Green.
Yes, what a great fight that was. Quick question on Conor McGregor. Do you think he's going to fight at 155 or do you think he's going to go to 170?
What I think he's going to do is take the easier route and maybe fight at 170, but I don't see anyone at 170 to fight. I think 170 is like everyone's on a path to gold. So no one's going to steer away unless they get like a Jorge Masvidal. So like that would be interesting. But I think the most matchups for him are at 155. And I want him to fight at 55. He stays disciplined and he's the Conor we remember and not past his prime.
Right. But it's been 5 years. And how easy is that weight cut going to be? And how old is he now?
I mean, he's my age. He's like 37 now.
37. But he's been out of it for 5 years. Even though he's training, it's still not doing the regular camps and weight cuts. Speaking of weight cuts, how have yours been?
Oh, it's gotten better in my older age. I've learned so much more on not only the proper ways to do things, but how my body responds to it. And so cuts have been beautiful.
Have you ever struggled with any cuts?
Oh, yeah. 155 isn't an easy task for me. And so we've had some pretty rough weight cuts that we've had to learn from, but we've learned. I occasionally have some pitfalls. It's still a lot of work, but so much easier now in my late 30s than it was in my 20s.
Those weight cuts that were difficult, did that translate on game day in the Octagon? And afterwards you're like, that was weight cut. It has to impact the day you're fighting.
Opposite. So the weight cuts that were like the hardest to get on weight, I recovered extremely well from, and I fought extremely well. It was the weight cuts that were seemingly really easy. Like I'm making 55 really easy. And I fought and then I felt drawn out. Like I didn't feel like 100%. In other words, it's like this catch-22. If you have an easy weight cut, the fight gets harder. But if you have the hard weight cut, the fight is easier.
Mm-hmm. And at this stage in your career, you've kind of dialed it in. I remember listening to a recent interview with Volk where he was talking about he doesn't have to train as hard in some respects because he's been doing it for as long as he has, and because he has to preserve his body and his health. Do you think much the same? You have to think about your health at this age. And you're a fan favorite because you brawl. This is why we love you. And this is why we're so excited that you have 6 more fights, because we want to see you stay in there at the highest level. But that does impact your health and it does impact the way you take care of yourself. Talk about that. I know one time you were wearing blue light glasses. Are you still doing things like that?
Yeah, I mean, if it's needed, I'll after fights, I go through my entire concussion protocol just so that way we age well enough. But it's funny you should say this because my last camp with Michael Johnson, my coaches decided to step forward and be like, you're 37, you got to start training like it now. And so they did a complete restructure of my training to where I'm actually training more like Volk, where it's like I'm not training as hard, but it's more profound. And then I found out that I'm a very overzealous person. So I'm the biggest enemy in my camp because I do too much and I shoot myself in the foot. And having my coaches just restructure that, I followed the plan. I felt more like a monster.
Wow, incredible. So you're still that tank that your mom nicknamed you as a kid. You're still going full force. You love watching fights.
Mm-hmm.
Who are fighters in other weight classes that you like to watch?
Man, Cop was like my favorite fighter of all time. Current active, I love watching Rufy fight. So the Michael Chandler Rufy fight would be super fun. Fiziev is always a good fight to watch. Other weight classes, Islam Makhachev is incredible. It's definitely a different style of fighting that I'm drawn to, but he does it so brilliantly. Everyone from the fight nerds. Fight nerds are just such a fun culture and their personality, and they bring into the Octagon. Teammates, Justin Gaethje, Corey Sandhagen. I love watching Neil Magny fight. Man, the list goes on. So if I take one fighter right now that I look forward to watching every single time, it's Pereira. I mean, everyone loves watching him fight.
The White House card is interesting because there's 2 great fights. So there's actually all the fights are good, but we were expecting something so different that when it finally landed, we're like, "Oh," but then you forget, no, this is really an incredible card. We get to see Alex at heavyweight. Very
Mhm.
exciting. When you talk about Mauricio Hufi, who's also going to be on the White House card, what is it that you like about his style?
It's the fluidity and honestly watching his training videos and how it translates to his actual fights to where he actually trains that looseness. He trains the creativity and his coaches encourage it. And then watching the fight and he's so proficient at it. Another fighter similar to that is like a Bobby Green. He holds his hands down and it's so unorthodox, but he trains it. And so when it comes to the fight, it's not improvised. He knows what he's doing. And it's so, it's like watching an artist paint. It's so fun to watch.
It's so fun to watch, but at the same time, your reaction time has to be lightning quick because you're actually fighting that opponent. I remember a funny anecdote you had when you were fighting King. Was he's talking all the time and you were trying to talk back. Tell that story again.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, he was talking nonstop. And the fun part is like the fight was in the Apex. So everyone got to hear it like just nonstop. And it was hilarious. But in the first round, I tried to talk back. And he looked at me, he said, "Shut up," and then hit me with a 1-2. And that's when I knew like I'm not on that level. Like he's so proficient at talking and striking, never done it. And so I try to do it. Doesn't work out well.
Great point. I'm glad you brought that up because I always wonder this when I'm watching a fight. In the Apex, it's much more quiet. So you can hear the ref, right? But when you're in the big arenas and the crowd is roaring, can you hear the ref? Or can you hear your opponent?
It's like you have tunnel vision. It's like everything inside or like around the octagon you're aware of. Anything past the first row, you can't see anything.
Because you're just so hyper laser focused, because you're in fight or flight, probably. So it is tunnel vision.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, you can hear your coaches, you can hear the ref, you can hear your opponent, but it's like, I don't think anyone else can.
Because I'm always wondering when you knock someone out, you have to finish the fight, right? Because if the ref doesn't call it and he gets back up, you could potentially miss an opportunity. So you have to continue to strike. Does the ref ever yell like stop, or do they have to come in and physically insert themselves with a stop?
I mean, yeah, I can't speak on behalf of like every fighter. Me personally, it's the moment a third person touches you, then you know it's done, right? So like you're just performing your job, another person steps in and you're like, oh, now it's over. But I don't think you audio wise, like that doesn't trigger the end. So even if he yells stop, right, I'm still going to continue until he puts an arm in or he steps in.
So interesting. I lost my train of thought. I was thinking of Druisms. You know, fighting gives you an ongoing opportunity to learn about yourself and to remember to be a child. And the child gives you the freedom to be in love with something again. There was another one that I heard you say, and it's a really important one, and that is butter and bacon makes everything better. I may have paraphrased it.
I mean, yeah,
But
absolutely. I actually did go to culinary school.
wow. At what point in your career did you decide that you wanted to learn how to make souffles?
I mean, it was like at the early age, like 18, 19. My mother taught me how to cook at such a young age. So that way I could just do it. And so in fighting, I had to make my own meal diet. And I found it so entertaining just to make chicken and broccoli as amazing as I possibly could. And then after fights, and had outrageous things can I could cook and make. And so then it turned into research, just like in martial arts. What else can I learn? And I pursued culinary school for a little bit, but a chef told me that if you have anything else going on in your life, being a chef isn't for you. And I was like, all right, so I have fighting and that's number one. And so then maybe I won't be a chef, but what can I do? And then coincidentally, I was walking through a grocery store and the guy recognized my ears and he's like, I'm the manager here. You fight? I do. I'm looking for a job. You know, anything available? You're like, no, not really. I'm like, what about the bakery? He goes, we could use you in the bakery. So I got hired on as a baker. And so then I was like making donuts and cookies for 2 years.
Well, I'm sure your wife appreciates that in the off season between fights.
I mean, the skills just makes me a glorified father. The two women in my house are the only ones that experience these skills.
Did that lend itself to your interest in wine and cigars? Because you're this violent warrior that is also mindful and meditative, and then sophisticated because you like wine and you know wine. Where did that interest spark from?
I was never really a big drinker. And I'd go to like post-fight parties and I would have to like carry a glass of cranberry juice so that way no one bought me drinks. So I was like, I should find something that I could chip on. And so it was honestly my love for food. Well, wine always complements food. So you would try some of that. I was like, I actually really enjoy this. So wine was just my drink of choice, no matter where I go. And then it just expanded my palate. So it was just martial arts, food, and then it blended into wine. And cigars was, I love profound or robust. I guess we've dropped back deeper. In high school, I loved welding, machinery, and working with metal. Just the smell of like leather and smoke. And I had my very first cigar. It just reminded me of the leather-bound books, the leather, the oil. I'm like, I really enjoy this. So then it turned into another thing. Just like, I just enjoy the flavor and the palate of it.
I put you and Volk into this class of fighters that are very multifaceted, multi-dimensional, very well-rounded. Your interests are all over the place. And I think that that just makes for an interesting fighter, an interesting human. Going back to the other things that you've got going on right now, you're launching a coaching and training program. Tell us about that.
With my love of martial arts and my passion, I'm not leaving the sport ever. But, you know, when I decide to step away from the cage, how am I going to be involved? And my love for martial arts in the sport transcends more than just actively participating. I would love to help the next generation learn and grow from my mistakes. And coaching is just another excitement of mine that I would actually love. And I've dabbled in coaching a little bit, but seminars, being able to show strangers martial arts, teaching from all levels, from beginner to advanced, and then being involved in other fighters' lives. It is so exciting for me. And so I want to take this opportunity in my career to educate other people to what I know and use this to expand upon. When I'm done fighting, I still want to continue talking about fighting to other people.
Awesome. You did a breakdown of your fight with Michael Johnson, and that was so interesting because as a spectator, when I was watching it, you said Michael took the first round, and I was thinking in my head, okay, MJ took that first round. But then when you broke it down for us, you said that first 2.5 minutes, I was making reads, like I was fainting. And it wasn't because Michael was, well, he's fast and he's so good. And so he's doing his thing. So not to discredit what he's doing, but in your mind, you're just making reads that first half and helped me understand what was going on in your mind. And then all of a sudden it was 2.5 minutes in, you heard your coach say 2.5 minutes. And now you're like, okay, now I need to make a move. And you come out in the second round and take care of business. Are you going to do more breakdowns of your fights?
Oh, absolutely. I have like the natural gift, but there's so much thought that goes into like the planning, the reading the moment and the adjustments. And these are the things I keep to myself. And like, we're doing it now. When I started doing the breakdown, I really enjoy letting people know like what goes through the internal monologue of a fighter while he's in the octagon.
Completely. That's true IP. That's your intelligence that no one has access to except for you. And so when you broke that fight down, I looked at the fight differently. So I welcome those breakdowns.
Oh, wonderful.
Anything you would like to tell people who enjoy fighting, or do you want to share more about your website and what you're doing?
I mean, I'm looking to expand upon and being more involved. And so with my website, signing up for the newsletter, get it in the inner circle, I can let people know where I'm going to, when I'm teaching seminars, doing meet and greets. I want to be involved in the fans, the friends, the family, everyone involved in the UFC. I'm putting myself out there on social media, doing the breakdowns and the personality things. And I love the feedback. I love the conversations. So whether you want to send me DMs, meet me, go to my website, sign up for that newsletter, and then I can stay connected on anybody that wants to be involved.
The website is
drewdober.com.
easy to remember. All right. Well, I thank you so much for your time. It's been an honor getting to do a deep dive on you and looking at your social media. I've watched all of your UFC fights, so I'm a bit of an expert on Drew Dober. You are, not only are you a fighter's fighter, you're an incredible man. You're mindful, you're honorable. It's such a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. And I really enjoyed this opportunity to have an interview with you.
Thank you.